I married into a family that always compared me to my husband's ex, but it wasn't until I found old letters from my mother-in-law secretly begging him to reconcile with her that I realized I was never truly accepted, only tolerated. And now I'm questioning if my marriage can survive without the validation of a family who never wanted me. I'm writing this at 3 a.m. with shaking hands because I need to get this out before I lose my nerve. My name is Sarah, hurt, and I destroyed my marriage because I couldn't handle being second place to a ghost. It started with the wedding photos. Not mine, hers, Rebecca's. My husband Jake's ex-fiancée who died in a car accident 3 years before we met. Her picture still hung in his childhood bedroom at his parents' house. Still sits on his mother's mantle. Still gets mentioned at every family gathering like she's just running late. Rebecca would have loved this restaurant. Rebecca had such good taste in decorating. Remember when Rebecca organized that charity drive? I became Mrs. Jake Morrison, but I was never Rebecca. And God, how his family made sure I knew it. The final straw came last Tuesday. I was helping clean out the attic for Jake's mom when I found them letters. Dozens of them. All from my mother-in-law to Jake, written during our engagement and even after our wedding. My hands trembled as I read her beautiful cursive handwriting begging him to reconsider marrying me, telling him he was settling, and that Rebecca wouldn't want him to throw his away on someone who could never measure. The last letter was dated 6 months ago. 6 months into my marriage, she was still trying to convince my husband I wasn't good enough. I sat in that dusty attic and cried until I couldn't breathe. Then I got angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my. That's when Marcus texted me, my coworker from the marketing firm, the one who always made me laugh during boring meetings, the one who looked at me like I hung the moon instead of like I was consolation prize. How was weekend? Seems stressed lately. For the first time in 2 years, someone was asking about me. Not comparing me to a perfect dead woman. Not treating me like I was lucky to be tolerated. I should have gone home. Should have confronted Jake about the letters. Should have demanded couples therapy or at least an honest conversation about his family's treatment of me. Instead, I met Marcus for coffee. Just coffee, I told. Just someone who actually wants to hear about my day. But coffee became lunch. Lunch became dinner. Dinner became long walks where he listened to everything I'd been holding inside. He didn't know Rebecca. To him, I wasn't second choice or disappointment. I was just Sarah, and that felt like oxygen after drowning. The first time he me was in the parking lot after one of these dinners. I should have stopped it. Should have pulled away. Should have remembered my wedding vows. Instead, I him back like he was saving me from something. Because in that moment, he was. 3 weeks. That's how long I lived a double. 3 weeks of feeling chosen, wanted, celebrated. 3 weeks of Marcus treating me like I was precious while my husband's family continued their campaign to make me feel like an intruder in my own marriage. I started lying about working late. Started smiling again, but for all the wrong reasons. Started looking forward to something again, but with the wrong person. Jake noticed I seemed happier. His exact words, been in such a good mood lately. Mom said maybe you're finally adjusting to being part of the family. Adjusting. Like I was the problem. Like their treatment of me was weather I just needed to learn to live with. That night, I met Marcus at his apartment for the first time. We ordered takeout and watched movies on his couch, and he told me I deserved better than people who made me feel invisible. He was right, I did deserve better, but I was going about getting it in the worst possible way. The affair lasted 6 weeks total. 6 weeks where I felt alive and valued and seen. 6 weeks where I forgot I was married because I was so desperate to remember I was human. It ended the way these things always do. Messily, stupidly, completely. Jake came to surprise me at work with lunch because I'd been working so hard lately. Found my desk empty. Asked my colleague where I was. Oh, Sarah left early today. Said she had a doctor's appointment, but I saw her leaving with Marcus from the Morrison account. They looked pretty cozy. Morrison account. Even my affair had his family name attached to it. Jake wasn't. He'd been a detective before switching to corporate security. He started paying attention. Started noticing things. The late nights that didn't match my project deadlines. The new clothes I claimed came from my sister. The way I startled when he touched me unexpectedly, like I'd forgotten he had that right. He followed me. On a Thursday evening when I told him I was meeting a client, he followed me to Marcus's apartment building and watched me walk in like I belonged there. He didn't confront me that night. He went home and sat in the dark until I came back at 11 p.m. with my excuse already prepared. How was client dinner? He asked from the living room chair. Productive. Sorry I'm so late. The lies came so easily now. What restaurant did go to? That new Italian place on 5th Street. Another lie. I was at Marcus's apartment eating leftover Chinese food and feeling desired. I drove by there around 9. Didn't see car. My stomach dropped. We went somewhere else after. Know how clients are? He nodded. Yeah, I know exactly how they are. I thought I'd covered it. Thought my explanations made sense. Thought I was protecting everyone by keeping my secret. I had no idea my world was about to detonate in the most public way possible. Because Jake Morrison, the man I'd married but never felt truly loved by, was about to show me exactly what real consequences looked like. The confrontation came 3 days later, but not in the way I expected. Not in our bedroom or kitchen or any private space where we could have handled this like adults. It came at his family's monthly dinner. The one I'd been dreading for 2 years. The one where I sat at their table and listened to Rebecca's stories while they tolerated my presence. I should have known something was wrong when Jake was unusually quiet during the car ride over. Should have paid attention to the way he kept checking his phone. Should have noticed he dressed more than usual, like this was an event instead of just another family dinner. But I was distracted, rehearsing my decision to finally end things with Marcus. The guilt was eating me alive. And I'd finally worked the courage to break it off and try to save my marriage. Too little too late. We walked into his parents' house and I immediately knew something was different. His sister Amy was there with her husband and kids. His brother David drove in from 2 hours away. Even his aunt and uncle were there, the ones who usually only showed for holidays. "What's the occasion?" I asked Jake as we hung our coats. "We'll see," he said, and his voice was ice. His mother, Patricia, greeted me with her usual tight smile. The same smile she'd been giving me for 2 years. The same smile she'd been wearing while writing letters to my husband about how wrong I was for him. We sat down for dinner and everything seemed normal at first. Patricia served her famous roast, the one Rebecca used to help her make. David talked about his new job. Amy's kids showed us their art projects from school. I was almost relaxed when Jake stood and tapped his glass with a fork. "I wanted to gather everyone here tonight because I have some news to share about Sarah and me." I froze. This wasn't how I'd imagined telling people about marriage problems. This wasn't how anything was supposed to happen. A's all know. Sarah has been working very hard lately. Lots of late nights, lots of client meetings, really dedicated to her career. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Everyone was looking at me now, and I felt like a bug under a microscope. In fact, she's been so dedicated that she's developed a very close working relationship with one of her colleagues. Marcus Thompson, some of might remember him from the Morrison account. Oh God, oh no, this wasn't happening. Jake reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. I thought all might like to see just how close their working relationship has become. The drain from my face. "Jake, don't." But he was already swiping through photos on his phone. Photos of me and Marcus walking into his apartment building. Photos of us kissing in parking lots. Photos of me leaving his place at night, looking guilty and disabled. "Jake hired a private investigator," Patricia said quietly, and I realized she already knew. They already knew. This wasn't a revelation. It was Amy's kids were quickly ushered into the living room to watch TV. The adults stayed seated around the dinner table like a tribunal. 6 weeks, Jake said, his voice deadly calm. 6 weeks of lies. 6 weeks of working late, and client dinners and project deadlines. 6 weeks of coming home to me and pretending to be my wife while we're playing house with someone else. I wanted to defend. Wanted to explain about the letters, about feeling invisible, about how his family's treatment of me had driven me to this. But looking around the table at their faces, disgusted, disappointed, vindicated, I realized nothing I said would matter. Her. The investigator got some interesting photos from last Tuesday night. Jake continued. "Would like to see them, or should I just tell everyone what we're doing while I was home making dinner for my cheating wife?" "Stop," I whispered. "Please. Stop." Patricia laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Want him to stop, or the one who couldn't stop, or the one who away a good marriage because selfish and ungrateful? "Mom," David said quietly. "No, I'll say what everyone's thinking." Heard. "We welcomed her into this family. We tried to make her feel at home, and this is how she repays us, by cheating on Jake, by disrespecting our family." Amy was crying now. How could do this to him, after everything he's been through? Everything he's been through. Rebecca again, always Rebecca. "I know I messed," I said, my voice shaking. "I know this is wrong, but don't understand." "What don't we understand?" Jake me off. "That my wife is a liar. That she's been sneaking around behind my back. That she's been making a fool of me while I defended her to everyone who said I was moving on too fast." The room went silent. Even the kids in the living room had stopped talking. "Defended me?" I asked, stupidly. Jake laughed, but it was bitter. "Course I did. When people said we're nothing like Rebecca, I told them that was the point. When they said I was settling, I said I was choosing differently. When my own mother wrote me letters telling me to reconsider marrying, I them away without reading them because I thought I loved enough for both of us." He knew. He'd always known about the letters. "But we're right, Mom," Jake said, looking at Patricia. "We're all right. She never deserved this family, never deserved me. And now everyone's gonna know exactly what kind of person she really is." "What do you mean?" I whispered. Jake smiled, and it was the cruelest expression I'd ever seen on his face. "I mean, I've already filed for divorce. I mean, the investigator's report is going to HR department on Monday morning. I mean, Marcus's wife got copies of all the photos this afternoon." Marcus's wife. Marcus was married. I never knew. He never told me. "His wife," I gasped. "Oh, didn't know." Amy said sweetly. "Marcus Thompson has been married for 8 years. Has 2 little girls. His wife Jennifer works at the elementary school. Really sweet woman. Was so grateful when Jake reached out to let her know what her husband was too. I was going to be sick. Right there at the dinner table, I was going to. I'm also sending copies to family," Jake continued. "Parents, sister, brother. Everyone who attended our wedding and watched promised to be faithful. They should know what those promises were worth." "Jake, please." I was begging now. "Don't do this. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything." "No, wanna work it out?" Patricia scoffed. "Now that caught, wanna fix things." Where was this energy when we're sneaking around with a married man? The worst part was knowing she was right. I hadn't tried to fix my marriage. I just tried to fix how I felt, and I'd done it in the most destructive way possible. "The locks are already changed at the house," Jake said. "Stuff is in storage, can get the address from my lawyer." I looked around the table one more time. At the family that had never fully accepted me, but that I'd still destroyed my chance to be part of. At the man I'd married but never fought for. "Rebecca would never have done this," Patricia said quietly. And there it was, the final comparison, the ultimate proof that I'd never measured and never would. I stood from the table on shaking legs. "I'm sorry." I said to the room. I'm so sorry, but sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't undo 6 weeks of lies. Sorry doesn't give Marcus's wife her trust back or Jake his dignity. Sorry is just what say when burned everything down and finally realize we're holding the matches. 3 months later, I'm living in a studio apartment that smells like the Chinese restaurant downstairs. My divorce is almost final. My career is over. My family barely speaks to me. And I'm completely utterly alone. The HR meeting was exactly as Jake promised it would be. Photos spread across the conference table like evidence in a trial. My supervisor, Janet, looking at me like I was something that had crawled out from under a rock. This is completely inappropriate workplace conduct, she said, not meeting my eyes. Been having an affair with a client representative, which violates our ethics policy, our professionalism standards and basic human decency. Marcus was fired too, but he landed on his feet. Men always do. Got a new job within a month. His wife took him back after he agreed to counseling and complete transparency. His kids still have their father. Me. I'm unemployed and unemployable. Word travels fast in our industry. Nobody wants to hire the woman who destroyed 2 marriages for a 6-week fling. The worst part isn't the professional consequences though. It's not even the divorce or losing the house or having to sell my car to pay for a lawyer. The worst part is seeing what I did to everyone else. Jake's sister Amy posted on Facebook about family loyalty and people who pretend to be something they're not. The comments were brutal. Our mutual friends picked sides immediately, and nobody picked mine. My parents drove 8 hours to see me after Jake sent them the photos. Mom cried in my tiny apartment kitchen. Dad just kept shaking his head like he couldn't believe I was his daughter. We raised better than this, Mom said. We taught about commitment and honesty and treating people with respect. How did we fail so badly? They didn't fail me. I failed them. Failed everyone. Marcus's wife Jennifer showed at my apartment 2 weeks ago. I almost didn't answer the door because I didn't recognize her at first. She looked smaller than in the Facebook photos Marcus had shown me older. Tired. I wanted to see, she said when I finally opened the door. I wanted to see the woman who almost destroyed my family. I invited her in because what else do you do when ruined someone's? Offer them coffee and listen while they tell exactly how much damage I've caused. My girls asked me why Daddy was crying, she said, sitting on my secondhand couch. Emma, she's 7, she drew a picture at school of our family and made Daddy's face blue because that's the color of sad. How do I explain to a 7-year-old that Daddy mummy's feelings with another lady? I couldn't answer that. Can't answer that. Marcus told me didn't know he was married, she continued, said thought he was single. I almost believed that until I saw the photos of 2 at the company Christmas party. I was there that night, met me. We talked for 20 minutes about how hard it is to balance work and family. She was right, I remembered now. Jennifer Thompson, the teacher who baked cookies for the office potluck, who talked about her daughter's soccer games and how proud she was of Marcus's career success. I knew he was married. I chose not to think about it. I keep wondering what I did wrong, she said. Was I not pretty enough? Not interesting enough? Was I too focused on the kids, too tired at night? What did I fail to give him that could? Nothing, I whispered. Didn't do anything wrong, I did. She nodded and wiped her eyes. I know that. In my head I know that. But my heart keeps asking why I wasn't enough to keep him faithful. She left after that and I haven't stopped thinking about her questions. About Emma's blue sad face. About how my choices shattered a family I never even considered while I was making them. The divorce papers came last week. Jake kept everything, which was fair since I'm the one who broke our marriage. He also kept the friends, the social circle, the respect of everyone who knew us. He sent one text message after the papers were served. I hope it was worth it. It wasn't, God, it wasn't worth anything. I saw him at the grocery store last month. He looked good like he was sleeping again. There was a woman with him, tall blonde, laughing at something he said. Not a rebound, something real. She looked like Rebecca. When he saw me in the frozen food aisle he didn't look angry anymore. Just empty, like I was a stranger he used to know. How are doing? I asked, because what else do you say to someone who's imploded? Better, he said simply. Much better. The woman with him smiled politely when he introduced me as someone I used to know, not his ex-wife. Not the woman who cheated on him, just someone from his past who didn't matter anymore. That worse than anger would have. I've been in therapy for 2 months now. Dr. Martinez asks good questions about why I made the choices I made, about feeling invisible and seeking validation and how my self-worth got so wrapped in other people's opinions. All valid points. All true insights. All completely irrelevant to the destruction I caused. Understanding why I made these choices is important for healing, she tells me. But I don't want to heal. I wanna remember this feeling forever so I never do anything this again. Last night, I found Marcus's family Christmas photo on Facebook. His wife posted it with the caption, grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Everyone looked happy. The girls were wearing matching red dresses. Marcus had his arm around Jennifer like he was holding on to something precious. They look like a real family again. Like the interruption I caused was just a bad dream they woke from. I'm still living in the nightmare. Sometimes I catch planning what I'll say if I run into Jake again. How I'll apologize better, explain better, somehow convince him that I'm not the monster I proved to be. But there's nothing to say. No explanation that makes betrayal acceptable. No apology that unbreaks trust or unbreaks hearts or gives Emma back her daddy's happy face. I made my choices. 6 weeks of lies, 6 weeks of selfishness, 6 weeks of choosing my own gratification over everyone else's well-being. Now I live with the consequences every single day in this studio apartment that smells like regret and soy sauce. My phone doesn't ring anymore. My calendar is empty. My future is a blank page that nobody wants to help me write. I destroyed my marriage because I couldn't handle being second choice, and now I'm nobody's choice at all. Some mistakes make, learn from, and move on. Others follow forever, changing how people see and how see. I know which kind mine was.